Hi there, my name is Jessica Crow, and I am the founder of Apogy. Apogy is a change management training and consulting firm, and this is Change Leader Insight. So last year we referred to this show as Change Leader Speaker Series. It is now Change Leader Insights, and I am so excited that my first guest here is Hannah. Hannah, welcome to the show. I am really looking forward to our conversation today. Do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself? What you currently do, and then I have some questions to get us started.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Hannah Bade, and I work at Larimer County in Colorado. So I work for local government. I am an organizational change manager in our project management office in the information technology department. So I've been there just about 2 years, and yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you about change today.
Change management stuff. Yeah. Well, thanks again for being here. So I had the good fortune of working with Hannah over the past, I think it was like 12 weeks, couple months. And our journey together, so Hannah is trained in change management. She went through the certification process and joined the PMO and has been supporting change management efforts on the projects that she's been supporting. So her and I were working together to really take what she'd learned and think about how to apply it in her unique business situation. And so we would have weekly conversations where we were talking about, how do we think about applying this aspect of the change management methodology that she was using, or this tool, or navigating behavior change and leadership and influence. And so one of the things I really enjoyed about working with you, Hannah, was how thoughtful you were and continue to be and are. That's just who you are as a person, and your heart for people. Like, there's no better change management professional than someone who truly has empathy and compassion for their fellow humans and colleagues, obviously. So when you started out, you had gone through your certification program. What were some of the biggest, I guess, aha moments for you as you were starting, from learning about change management to actually applying change management? What were you surprised about? Tell me about that. Okay, I've learned this. Now what do I do? Tell me about that experience for you.
Yeah, so I got my certification with ProSci when I first started. And this was my first change management role. So I was really coming in new to the field, and I had really thought that there would be kind of a formulaic approach to dealing with this scenario in IT, and that sort of you follow this step, you follow this step, you follow that step, and then success.
Everything works out.
People are changed and everything works.
Yeah.
And after I got my certification, I realized that successful change management really requires adaptability and adjusting. And so for myself, that was really hard because I like to be excellent. I like to be an expert. I like to know what I'm doing.
Have a plan, all those things. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to learn that what might apply on this project is different than what might apply here. And what might work for this person or this group that's impacted by this change is different than what's going to work here. And so I honestly struggled when I first started because I was trying to fit my change management into a box. Yeah. And that caused some friction because it wasn't connecting with my value, like you said, of people, right? People are what matter. And so I kind of took a zoomed out approach once I kind of experienced that, dissonance in myself, and thought, okay, what is it that I am bringing to this room that is different? If I wasn't here, what would be missing?
Right.
And I kind of took that as that was my goal, to bring that into every meeting, every scenario, every documentation that I was doing, was that the fact that I care and think about people, and I want to hear from them.
Right. Like what they need and what's their concerns, what they're excited about. I think, a lot of people who go through training probably have the same experience that you have. They learn everything they need to learn and they're like, I'm going to apply it on this project or change. And, human beings are complex and you can't put your change management in a box, so to speak. One of the really great transformations with you in your thinking and your approach when we first started working together, you're like, I don't like change. I have a hard time with change.
Yeah.
And I'm a change manager. So that was sort of a great way of capturing, this is something that I'm going to be helping others with. How do I lean into this idea of being adaptable, which is something you sort of cultivated within yourself by having that awareness of what do I bring to the table? How do I continue to care about people? And provide that value. So that was a fun awareness moment, I think, in your journey over the past 3 months. But it is challenging when you first start, right? You've got an idea of how things should go, but they rarely ever go the way you're expecting. But there is value in having that foundation. So what would you say, even if you walk into the room and you're like, I'm going to listen to their needs, I'm going to hear what they're saying. What are some of the essentials? Like if you are, someone who's new in their change management career or journey, like you were last year, what tips or advice would you give to someone who is going to be supporting change management on an internal business project or IT project?
Yeah, so one thing I liked to do is, this is going to be a little bit funny, but I liked to envision myself with like really big ears, because my goal was to go in and listen to what people had to say, and not push, right? I feel like there can be a tendency to like push your initiative, push your goals, push your vision, push all of those things, but it doesn't matter if you're not listening to the people in the room.
Right.
So I think the main pieces of advice I would say is put on your listening ears, even do a visualization if you have to. Ask questions for clarity. So can you tell me a little bit more about that? Oh, I'm seeing this in your body language, your, sort of how you're showing up in the room. Like, how are you feeling? Just kind of really expressing that care for that individual. And then I would say the other thing that was really big in my transition into this role was being willing to share what you learn. Because I came in and I would be like, well, let's go, we're changing this big thing. We're replacing this thing that we have now, our ticketing system, for example. That was the first project I got put on. I said, well, let's go talk to the people about what they like about what we currently have, what they dislike, what their concerns are, what they want to see different. And they were like, oh, that's a really good idea. And I was like,
how have you not asked this question?
And everyone was so grateful that we took the time to listen. And then what I also learned is that what I hear is different than what my business analyst hears, is different than what my project manager hears, is different than what my product owner hears.
Right.
And so if I take that information as an input and I analyze it and, digest it in my own head, but I don't share that, there's that piece that's missing from the room. And so that was something that, can feel scary at times, because sometimes you're dealing with people who are resistant, right? They don't want to do the change. They have some pretty big concerns. Maybe they're pretty vocal, or they have a lot of emotion and they bring that into the room or into the space and into the project. And so it's finding a way to put that information, consolidate it, and share it so it can then aid the work of everybody else on the project as well.
Did you find you listed a few different roles that you work with on projects? You have your business analyst, your project manager, your product owner. Did you find that you had to do some education in terms of like what change management is and why it's important with those stakeholders? Because everyone is looking at it from a different lens and they've got different goals and objectives for the work that they're doing. So tell us a little bit about how you navigated those conversations and help people understand, okay, here's why I'm here. And, yes, we need to understand and the needs of our stakeholders and the impacts and how they're feeling, but like talk a little bit about that, because that is a very real, those negotiations with other people who have objectives can be challenging at times. How did you do that?
Yeah. So a lot of times I shared meetings or interactions with impacted groups with another one of my coworkers. So yeah, we had a business analyst on that project, a product manager, a product owner, and then we had like the development team. And so I didn't do let me think about it. This project was a long project. So yeah. I didn't do like a formal change management specific, what change management is, what you're doing, right, sort of stuff. The first activity I did on this project was we kind of went through some exercises. So I brought up the concept of with them. So what's in it for me? Good. We brought up the concept of, impacted stakeholders, like who are those groups, what are those changes going to be, and then I also brought up the concept of vision, and so and messaging and why that was important. And so we kind of all got together in a room, we did some activities, we kind of did some like headlines, like when this project is over, we're in a newspaper because we did so well. What is that? Yeah, what is that headline going to look like? What are the words that people are going to use about this initiative? And that was like the starting point for defining our vision, which ended up from this very vague, nebulous, like sticky note pile of words. Yeah, right? And then ended up in fully developed goals, objectives with measurements and outlined benefits that then had owners in the business assigned to them. Perfect. That would own them ongoing.
Yeah, that is so great. And I want to reinforce that you're in your first, year plus of being a change leader. So kudos to you for doing all of those really important value added things and getting to that point on the project. That's really incredible. What about, more broadly, change management within Larimer County is, it's not new by any means, but there's a little bit of storming, norming, forming going on. Yeah. When you've got a team of people from different backgrounds and experience levels and tenure, how do you navigate some of those? How do you bring some of that together? Tell us a little bit about the balancing act or opportunity areas that you're seeing kind of from your perspective.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that was really valuable was kind of getting in the room. So being in a room where developers were making decisions, being in a room where the product owner was making decisions. I met with my product owner weekly and kind of talking about these things in a different way. And then I think too, there was a trust that had to be built, right? So I think there's a tendency for people to feel like they're all on their own. They have to do these things all on their own. And especially in the tech industry, it's hard to think about people because it's like people, like they're hard, they're complex, like you said. Yeah. They don't fit in a box. Yeah. And so it's like hard for someone to think about that. But what I did was I tried to build that trust that I was there to support. So if there was something that someone was uncomfortable with, something that someone struggled with, my goal was to help them know they weren't alone. We
Mhm.
could talk about it. We could figure out what support they needed to do their job better. And not only the people who were impacted by the change, but the people on the project, right?
Yeah.
So coaching the product owner, coaching the sponsor, coaching, we had subject matter experts that were responsible for some key processes and really kind of helping support those individuals and fill in those gaps that they maybe were aware that they had, but maybe couldn't vocalize that they had,
Right. Yeah.
um, to make it well-rounded.
Sometimes just having those conversations is a solution in itself, and it helps reduce or even alleviate any sort of resistance, just because people want to be seen, feel heard, all of the things that you're saying. Because when change happens, oftentimes there's a few decision makers making a change that impacts a broad group of individuals, and that can feel, nobody likes to be told what to do, nobody likes surprises, and sometimes we don't like change until we realize how adaptable we truly are. But
No, not me. I'm not resistant to saying I'm adaptable. No way.
no way, no. But it's having those conversations that is such an important part, and I love that, just you did those things, just recognizing that that was a need, and then it created space for people to kind of reduce the amount of concern they had, their frustration, their confusion, whatever it might have been, which is really, really powerful.
Yeah.
What do you love best about the profession that you're currently practicing?
Yeah, what I love is that it seems to really make a difference. So I came into this, my background is in social work, so totally different. I did direct case management in nonprofits, and domestic violence shelters with single parents, all of that, right? But through that work, I realized that technology specifically was really valuable and
Mhm.
could provide a lot of value to the coworkers that I had and the clients, but it was scary and at
Mhm.
times unattainable because of so many different factors,
Yeah.
right? And so I love that I get to help people have a better experience, more efficient, help meet their goals through efficient and effective technology,
Yeah.
and make it not painful, right?
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, technology can be painful. Like,
Yeah.
even
Making
for
that
me,
switch.
right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes, I want to kick my computer too.
Yeah.
But it's important that if there's someone there to help them through it, help
Mhm.
decode language, help support their people, all of those sorts of things,
Train them
it,
on how to use it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it feels more attainable.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I'm not just getting thrown into the deep end, but hey, maybe I'm getting thrown into the deep end, but at least I got, some cute little floaties,
Yeah.
you know?
I like that. Well, I love that you've been able to blend sort of what you've liked from your previous work and what you're interested in, what you see the opportunity in now with the role that you're currently in. Which is really, and having been able to work with you, I've seen you leverage your skills from your different training and experiences, and it's been really incredible to see. What about leadership skills? Now, we've talked about this together offline outside of this conversation. As someone who is, leading the change management efforts, leading and influencing and, having conversations, how important do you think it is for someone who is a trained change manager to develop or further develop their leadership skills? And if you agree that that's important, which ones would you, if you could pick like one or two to focus on, what would they be?
Yeah, I would say that it's pretty important. So, I mean, you're dealing with people who are above you, right? You're leading without authority in a lot of scenarios.
Mhm.
Um, my fiance likes to say, "Oh, your job is telling people what to do." It's really funny. I'm like, kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
But one of the biggest things is trust. So
Mhm.
building that trust is crucial, because no one will care about what you have to say until they trust you.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a big leadership skill. And so how I did that, because to be honest, I was a little uncertain when I first started. I was like, I don't know exactly where I'm fitting in here.
Right.
And how do I get the information that I need? And so I just started asking questions.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to take up too much space, but I wanted to get some answers.
Yeah.
And just by doing that and asking those questions, I kind of saw the other people on my project start to ask those questions themselves as well.
Right.
And so leading, with, because they trusted me and they knew that I was asking a question for a reason. I would say the other thing that's pretty important as a change leader is being creative.
Yeah.
So it can be easy to fall into old patterns. And that's something that, I haven't been in the field for too long. I haven't had the experience of, having enough to do that yet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think that it can be easy to say, like, well, I did this thing in the past. It worked well for me, so I'm just going to replicate it.
Right.
And I think that it takes critical thinking to
Mhm.
think about the situation that you're in.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a skill of a leader as well, because then you can kind of tailor what you do, what your strategy is, and really hit on those high value things.
Right.
And I think a common, perception of change management is it's touchy feely, it's extra, it takes a
Nice
lot of
to have.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it even worth it? And so if you're bringing the highest value components to a project from the very beginning, you're going to get more space to be in the room, more time to be able to talk about things and carry it throughout the project.
Yeah, absolutely. And creativity is a form of resourcefulness and problem solving, which is absolutely necessary on projects. One thing that you had said to me that stuck with me in the beginning is as to why it was important you to have change management and be leading that, is that you had been on the other side as an impacted stakeholder on an initiative that didn't have that type of thoughtfulness and change application, right? You didn't have the awareness, or you weren't ready for the change. Maybe the training was missing, or even just understanding the why, the vision, right? So you knew what it felt like, and you wanted to not deliver that type of experience for others. And I think your creativity there and awareness of that has really made, knowing about some of the stuff you did on your project, it was very creative and pretty fun. And I think it made people, it was engaging. So that's part of it.
Yeah.
So what about, as you look ahead into 2023, because we're in January of 2023, what are you excited to learn or continue to learn or deepen your skill set or thinking around as it relates to change management?
Yeah, I'm excited to learn a little bit more about how to be influential and what that means at different levels, right? So I might only have an opportunity to be influential in written communication
Mm-hmm.
on a certain project. So what does influence look like in communication, written communication? What does influence look like in verbal communication? What does influence look like in, maybe I don't even get a chance to say anything, but is there an influence I can have without even, being there or some sort of way? So
Yeah.
I think that influence piece is something is also tied to inspiration. So
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that people can be inspired to make more changes because they have the support necessary, and also understand that my change cannot feel good at the very beginning, but if I can think about these certain things or think about the people, man, it's going to feel a lot better for everybody, the people on the project, people impacted by the project, and all around the outcomes are going to be better. So I would say my 2 words for 2023 are influence and inspiration.
Love
I
that.
wish I had a third eye, but I really don't. I only have two
Ah,
or four, I guess.
ching.
Here's my
Oh, that's
glasses.
cute. Yeah. Well, I love that. Well, I have no doubt, with your focus on that, you will figure out ways to lead with influence and inspire people to not just be open to more changes, but to take action and maybe in a, more quickly in the future because they understand that the juice is worth the squeeze. And I think this is an important takeaway for senior leaders, for CEOs to hear this too. Even if you have to do a change, even if you've invested millions of dollars into something and it's going to happen, caring about your people, getting Hannahs in the room, people like Hannah who are thinking about the end user experience, the employee experience, caring about what they need and how they feel is going to accelerate the pace of change. It's going to result in better business outcomes. And also, it's the right thing to do. I mean, I think a culture of caring, our employees demand it and they deserve it more than anything else. So it has been so great talking with you. I've loved watching you grow over the past several months, and I have no doubt I'm going to continue to see and hear about all the great things that you're doing at Larimer County. So thanks for sharing your story with me today and for all of Apogy's community. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great rest of your day. And yeah, thanks again.
Bye.